Johanna. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Welcome back to another episode of Junk Journal with me. Today I'm doing another entry in my junk journal that I've just shared recently on my channel. I have these photos here that I printed on my inkjet printer, and that's because I ran out of photo paper in my Canon Selfie, which is what I usually use to print my photos. So I printed a couple of black and white photos with that. Then I ran out of paper, so I had to print the rest of my photos on my inkjet printer. I'm using this Distress Glaze stuff. It's a Tim Holtz product. It's supposed to be like a water resistant sealer for craft projects, so different inks and stains and stuff, as well as inkjet printing. So whenever I print with my inkjet printer, I like to use this stuff just as like a peace of mind thing to help it last longer and to protect it from getting wet and the ink running. So I just rub that on. A little bit goes a long way, and then you just buff it off with like a bit of paper towel. So I just did that to prepare those two photos, and now I'm just playing around with my journal. I usually like to jump around my journal a little bit more. I don't usually work chronologically, but for this particular journal I have stuffed it pretty full already with papers, so it's the papers that I bound into it have made it already a little bit tricky to use because it's so full. So I figured that if I work in the front and I work in the back first, it'll be easier to then later work towards the middle where it's a little bit easier to work. And again, I'm using double-sided tape for pretty much everything in this video because I need to buy myself a glue stick. I really don't like using double-sided tape for everything. I find it really fiddly and I feel like it doesn't stick as well as like a glue stick or other adhesives. So whenever I use double-sided tape, I tend to reinforce things with a stapler. So I stuck the photo of my daughter on the floral page, and then I put this other photo of my daughter and I onto a journal card by Create Paper, and I just stuck it on there with my sewing machine. So I just did a line of stitching along the top, and then I tucked it into the pocket so that it kind of overhangs, like it sits on top of the pocket, and I just added a little tiny word sticker at the bottom. Then I'm going back to the page previous to that page. I have this little picture, like a storybook picture. It's like a scrap. I actually had it in a frame, but I'm changing up my craft room decor at the moment, and I just wanted to keep this somewhere, so I decided to stick it down into my journal. And then I have these like chalkboard label frame things that I got on clearance at Spotlight quite a while ago. One of them has like a crease in the middle, which is the one that I decided to use. So all I did was just cut it down the middle. I cut off the creased bit, and then I just stuck it off the edge of the page, and it just fit really well at the top of the page there. Now I'm just trying to decide, do I want to work in that one page in between this journaling and my last journaling, or do I want to work forwards and go to the next page? I ended up deciding to go forwards because I felt like the paper matched it better with what I was journaling about. So I have this picture of my sons fishing. My daughter was there too with my husband, their dad. I wanted to include that in my journal. I have this really small printout of a vintage linen from my shop. It has a little sailboat on it, and so I just folded that and then put it over the top of the photo and stapled it. And then I wanted to cover up some of the white space on that page, and so I pulled out this scrap of paper from my scrap box, and I'm just using that to fill in some of that white space. Again, I have to stick everything down with double-sided tape, which is not my preference, and again I did use my stapler to reinforce that later. So I stuck that off the edge of the page to cover up a big chunk of that white space, and now I'm just going to stick that photo of my kids along the bottom of the page. On the back of the photo, since that was going to get stuck down, I did trim off that little extra piece of the linen printable, the really small piece. Just I thought that I could probably use that on a different page another time, and then I just stuck that down again with double-sided tape. have this vintage playing card which is gorgeous, and on it there's like a little image of, I guess it's like a father and a son, or maybe like a grandpa and grandchild, and they're going fishing, and that's obviously perfect to go with the photo that I'm documenting. So I stapled that at the top of the page, and I also put a little bit of washi tape behind that just to fill in any of that leftover white space. And now I'm just trying to work out what to do on the page with the swimming girls. It does kind of go with my journaling, but I felt like it just didn't quite fit 100% with what I was journaling, and I wanted to make it feel a little bit more, I don't know, like quirky or a little bit more playful, because this is journaling about my kids. I put this little mushroom journal card on the top of the page. This is one from my paper collection. It's a printable collection in my Etsy shop called In the Woods. And then I used this Disney postcard with the 7 dwarves along the bottom of that page as like a fold out, and I just think that looks really cute. I absolutely love those postcards they're like little sketches. They're like little character sketches from Disney. I love those ones. They're so cute. So that came in like a Disney postcard pack that I got from Angus and Robertson bookstore, I think. And then going back to the previous page with the picture of my daughter in her new bedroom, I wanted to add in this fold out. This is a fold out from my Etsy shop again. I thought this particular one would work really well with this page, and this was a bit of an afterthought, but it's a fold out of a blanket or a quilt. And these pieces, you can use them with the lined journaling pieces that come in the pack, so you can put them together and have like a standalone journaling piece. I decided though for this page just to use the top part of the piece as a fold out to the page underneath, if that makes sense. So instead of putting it together with the lined pieces, I just stuck it directly down onto the page itself, and it just kind of overlaps the bottom of that photo, and it gives me a little bit more journaling space because I journaled on the back side of the blanket printable. So as you can see, I just stuck that with double-sided tape. I tried to use my stapler, but it didn't quite reach to the page. So I stuck it with double-sided tape along the bottom of the page behind it so that it overhangs the whole page, if that makes sense. So that just adds like a little bit more interest and interaction to the page, and it also just gives me a little bit more space to work with. And I have this tiny little scrap of a vintage linen printable from my shop again, and I decided to use that just to cover up the name of the paper, the scrap paper that I used on that page. And then lastly, I have this little photo. It's a selfie that I took. I don't often take selfies. I was trying to take like an updated profile picture, but I decided, I think one thing that I want to try and do a little bit more is in my own journals. I journal a lot about my kids, and I journal a lot about like our family memories, but I don't often have any photos of myself like at all. And I just think it would be a little bit more interesting for myself to look back on if I'm looking back at old photos. So like when I'm an old lady and I look back in my journal, or my kids look back in my journal, I think it'll be really insightful to have more of myself in there, not just in the form of photos, but that is one thing that does give a lot of insight. So that's just something that I'm trying to do a little bit more. Last time, I think, like in my last journal, I was trying to include more writing because I often annotate things and I don't do like a heap of journaling. So last time I was sort of setting the challenge for myself to do more writing than I'm used to doing. And this time I want to keep doing that, so more writing and also a little bit more of myself and also my feelings. So not just relaying stories all the time, which I feel like I'm pretty good at, but also injecting more like emotional sort of stuff. like reflective stuff. Anyway, I ended up doing like a collage on that page just with some different papers. The little journaling piece is from crepe paper, and the castle and the keep growing piece is from my Etsy shop, so from my printable paper packs. And then I added the sticker, which is from the Heritage collection, and the little wax seal is from Penny and Rose Papery. Then I just added a tiny bit of journaling, so I just wrote when I started working in this journal and my name and my age, and then I'm just filling in a little bit of a blank space on the page behind that. So again, the paper that has the swimming girls, I kind of wanted to add something else underneath the postcard so that when you flip it down, it's not just the paper. I didn't want to cover up all of the paper because I really liked the print, but I also wanted to add just a little bit more interest. So again, these are some more printables from my shop. These are little sketchy doilies that I drew, or linens that I drew, and I picked this one with the blue because I felt like it really went well, and I didn't really have much more that I wanted to write. I like to usually write on top of these linens, but that one doesn't really have as much writing space. I thought I could just use it as like a little visual element on the page. And that is the finished pages. So I really like how this turned out. It was really simple, but I feel like everything flows together really well and all the colors complement each other. And I feel like as well the photos actually match with the papers that I put them on. So I really like how this whole thing turned out. Someone did say in my last video that they're kind of annoyed with me plugging my own printables, so talking about my own printables in these videos recently. I just want to say, like, these are, just like with creating journals, these are another form of my art. These are drawings that I've done on the iPad Pro. I'm pretty proud of them. I'm really enjoying drawing, so sharing those is not just like an advertisement, it's also just sharing more of my art, more of what I've been making. It's just a different form of art, and one that I'm really enjoying at the moment, which is why I've been sharing them so much. So I hope you guys don't mind if I use them in my own journals. I think that's another really cool way for me to inject more of myself and more of my own art into my own journals as well. And I think most people like the fact that they also have the option of using them in their journals too. So anyway, that is how the spread turned out. I hope you guys enjoyed this junk journal with me video. I hope you guys are having a great day, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.